Welcome to the Queen Anne's County Redistricting meeting. I'm Gene Ransom. I'm the co-chair. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Gene Lay.
My name is Mike Arns.
Elaine McNeil.
And we are missing a couple members tonight. You want to let us know who we have, who's not here? Obviously, my co-chair, Lori, isn't here. And who else isn't here?
That's right. The co-chair, Lori Plemons, is not here. Tracy Lawrence is also not able to make it tonight, and John McQueenie.
And the three of them did actually make it to the first two hearings, though, yes. So they participated and know what's going on. So I will go ahead and turn it over to you to get the program running.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ransom. This is the third and final public hearing of the Redistricting Board. We've had hearings at the Foxtown Senior Center in Sudlersville. We had a hearing at the Percy Thomas Center on Kent Island, and this is the third and final hearing in Centerville. And I will read the public notice. We'll have a short presentation, and then we'll take any public comment this evening from anybody that wants to make a comment, if we have any. Okay. So this is notice of a public hearing. The Queen Anne's County Redistricting Board shall conduct public hearings on the following dates and times: 6 p.m. on January 17th, Percy Thomas Center, 6 p.m. January 18th, Sudlersville Senior Center, 6 p.m. today, January 25th, County Commissioners Meeting Room, Liberty Building, Centerville, Maryland. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive public comment with respect to the proposed redistricting plan for the boundaries of the 4 county commissioner districts in Queen Anne's County. Such redistricting is required to be considered every 10 years following the national census. Copies of the draft plan are available at the offices of the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, 107 North Liberty Street, Centerville, Maryland, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. All persons that wish to comment on the proposed redistricting plan may do so at the hearings. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each, but written testimony of any length may be submitted on or before the hearing to the Queen Anne's County Redistricting Board, care of the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, 107 North Liberty Street, Centerville, Maryland, 21617. All hearing sites are accessible to individuals with disabilities. Sign language and interpreters and assistive listening systems will be available for individuals with disabilities. If any such assistance is necessary, please contact Beverly Churchill at 410-758-4406 or TTD 410-758-2126 at least 7 days before the scheduled hearing by authority of the Queen Anne's County Redistricting Board. So that is our certification of publication, public notice. I'll turn it over to Beth Mulaski to do the short presentation, and then we will entertain any public comment. And we also have the final plan here that we can cover at the end of the hearing for consideration by the board.
And just before we get started, I think the entire Redistricting Commission would like to thank Beth and the Election Board and everybody else for all their hard work. I mean, Beth really did all the work that you're going to see and got all the information together for us, and I can't say enough about how wonderful a public servant she is. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over the purpose of why we are here and some of the things that the board has worked on until we got to this point. So every 10 years following the U.S. Census, once we get the data, we are required to have a redistricting board so we can take a look at our commissioner districts and see that the population is evenly distributed. The goal is to make sure that it's as even as possible. The county commissioners appointed a 7-member board, which was 3 selected by the commissioners, 2 by the Democratic Central Committee, and 2 from the Republican Central Committee. So the schedule of events that have happened up until today: the census information was released in August of 2021. The board was appointed, which was no later than 1 year after the release of the data. We're at the third part right now, holding 3 public hearings in North Central and Southern Queen Anne's County. The next step will be submitting a draft plan to the county commissioners and asking them to follow with the regular legislative process to adopt the plan. So the first bit of information that we looked at was a comparison from 2010 to 2020 census data, and this breaks it up by region and then further by counties. This is that same information, but in a map form, and you can see Queen Anne's County there, where we had just over 2,000 folks increase in our population from 2010. Now, this is a map of the commissioner districts following the 2010 census. There were some lines that were changed during that redistricting process, and this actually shows the places in districts 3 and 4 that were adjusted. And it shows the broken down by districts and the amount of voting population in those areas. So this is the information from the 2020 census broken down by commissioner districts that shows the population, voting age population, and you can see the comparison between the 4 districts. And this just shows you a better snapshot of the comparison from the split up of voting population between 2010 and 2020. And you can see that we're actually still fairly close in distribution between the 4 districts. So the board asked for additional information to be reviewed. So they asked for the demographic breakdowns for the 2020 census results. They asked for information about the election districts and precinct boundaries and constraints, any future residential developments and projects that could affect the next board, and if there was any existence of any violations or complaints with the Maryland Attorney General's office regarding elections or redistricting. So this is the demographic breakdowns. This goes over the entire county. Then we also have the information split up by commissioner districts. District 1, District 2, District 3, and District 4. We also had information from our Board of Elections that explained that the election district lines have been in existence for more than 100 years, and they're closely tied to land records and deeds. They are also part of the tax identification numbers, which goes with every property in the county and mentioned in every deed that is presently recorded, and these lines can't be changed. The election districts and precinct lines follow geographic features such as rivers, streams, or roads. The precincts can be changed within the districts, but this was not the charge of this board. So the additional information as far as potential residential developments by district was also looked at, and as you can see, there's just 1 in the pipelines for District 1, 2 for District 2, but there's quite a few in the pipeline for District 3. And then a few for District 4. And we looked at this information because this might set up for the next board in 10 years that they may have to move those lines because of the uneven distribution of population. So the findings and recommendations from the group, the board suggests that the commissioner election district lines can stay within the current boundaries, that the distribution is more even than it was after the 2010 census, and that besides that, we vote for all of our commissioners at large at this time. The demographics across all of the election districts is proportionate with the distribution of voters. So we didn't see any anomalies or anything that was unusual in that. Based on the future potential developments of the county, we would like the county commissioners to work with the Board of Elections to consider legislation to allow future redistricting efforts to adjust the boundaries down to the precinct level if it's needed. Also, Gene Ransom contacted the Attorney General's office, and they confirmed that there was no outstanding election violations or matters with Queen Anne's County. We also are recommending that the Queen Anne's County Commissioners consider appointing at least 1 independent or unaffiliated representative to future redistricting boards. So the next steps, today is the final hearing. After that, we will be submitting the draft plan to the county commissioners and then asking them to follow the regular legislative process, which would be holding a public hearing and then final adoption of this plan. So if anyone
So why don't we
has
do
any
this?
comments-
Can we have our co-chair introduce herself? We introduced ourselves, and you came in just 2 minutes after that and got to hear all of Beth's comments, but we'd like you to introduce yourself.
I'm Laurie Clemens. Thank you.
And Lori Clemens is the co-chair of the redistricting committee, and we're doing it together in a bipartisan fashion. All right.
So and that concludes the presentation. We are accepting public comment by our public comment email. And if anyone just has direct questions regarding the redistricting process, they can also contact me by email or phone.
And we did have, Ms. McNeil and I, we talked about this last time, did receive comments from Mr. Parker, and then there was a written comment from a Mr. Ranelli, essentially just asking for a copy of the report, which was sent to him. I didn't see any other written comments. If there were any others, the committee should be aware of.
I did not get any other written comments.
All right, well, we'll make those both part of the record, and if any others come in, we'll include those as well.
Okay. And I don't see any.
Is there anybody who wants to testify?
Individuals on Zoom tonight for public comment?
All right, well, does the board have any comments they'd like to make?
I did have a conversation with each of our commissioners just over the last couple of months, asking their thoughts and if they had a feeling or opinion on it, and they said, no, they're happy with the way things are and don't see any reason to make any changes now.
And also, I'd say that the commissioners that I've spoken to about this, I just want to commend them for making it very important and clear that it should be a bipartisan, fair process, and two of them both communicated that to me. Can we go back to the recommendations? I think it might be worthwhile for us just to explain them in a little bit more detail. I mean, I can do it if you want, or we can do it together. It doesn't matter. So the first one on the first one on keeping it the same, I think Lori did a good job explaining that when she just made her comments. So I'll skip down to that. The consideration of the developments, I think we really just did that for the future redistricting board. It's not necessarily a big deal one way or another, but we think it's helpful information. So when the next board picks it up, they can look at it and say, oh, we should take this into consideration. The change with regards to the statute is actually somewhat important. We don't know this, but we think it might have been a mistake in the way the last report was written. It is clear that in the election board, in our first hearing, made it clear that we don't want to split the precinct levels because that will cause confusion and problems. But you really want to have this board to have the ability to make recommendations on the election district. And so we think just fixing that so the next board can make changes is really important as a recommendation. And hopefully the commissioners will pass legislation and get it out of the way so it's not political or problematic and gives the power to the next redistricting board to make adjustments if they're needed. Commissioner McNeil brought up the point about Governor Grayson being split among two districts, right? That could have been fixed theoretically if the statute wasn't the way it was, but we really couldn't address it now because they're in different they're in the same precinct, but they're in different election districts, and it just makes sense. So, and then the appointment of the unaffiliated, again, that's just a recommendation. The commissioners, whoever are in power at that point in time, can make that decision. And I also want to commend the board because I think one of the first things we all brought up was looking at all the demographic information and making sure everybody was treated fairly, regardless of their race or creed or color or where they're from or religion. And I really appreciate all the work you did, Beth, getting all that information together for us so quickly after we asked for it. So I don't know, Mr. Arns, did you want to talk about the importance of the census? I know you work for a congressman, so maybe you could explain to the public the importance of the census data and what it means to us.
Be happy to do that. But first of all, let me say thank you to you and to Lori Clemens, Gene Ransom, for chairing this committee and really doing the hard work that it's taken. In response to your question, the importance of the census is money. It comes down to money. And, as everybody knows, you pay federal taxes, and with the hope that some of those taxes end up coming back to you from the Congress. And the Congress votes on various different bills, and in the end, the number is about $9,000 per citizen that's subject to come back to the district based on census. So that's why the census is important, that's why the numbers are important, because it's all about getting your fair share of the federal money back into the district.
So it's not just the fact that we're using it to draw the districts, and proportions representation at many levels, all the way from commissioner up to Congress. It's also important because it's the allocation of resources. So just, I know sometimes in life we get concerned about government or what they want to know, but that's one that is really worth answering because it does make a difference to all of us regardless of party, because it makes a difference on federal funding for all kinds of county and state programs. So, any other comments on the findings or recommendations?
Good job on the insert, by the way. I like your comment about especially preparing for the future, because it could always change that the elections may change again where commissioners may not be at large. And so that was a good idea, I think, adding the ability to make changes in the future.
Okay. And again,
The other thing I would say is it looks like, I mean, District 3 is the largest already, and that's where most of the growth apparently is anticipated, except we're not counting municipalities to that, right? And there's more of those in the northern counties, so there might be growth there that we don't know about yet.
And there could be, and Jean and I spoke early on, we were looking at the demographic information that Beth sent, and we were looking at how things were 10 years ago versus how they are now. And it seems to be proportionally increasing. It just doesn't seem to be, a crazy amount of increase in population in District 3. And when you looked at what was coming in the pipeline, it looked like it would be about the same as we had seen in the last 10 years, so it just didn't seem any reason to, especially when you consider the federal funding.
we're really not allowed to make changes for what might happen. We have to look at the data the way it is today, and so this was the logical thing to do. But I think putting the information together for the next group, because if you think about it, 10 years from now, when they pull out whoever the 7 of us will be, the first thing they're going to do is look at the old report, right, and see what's on there. So we've helped them out by kind of putting the information for them, and they can figure it out. And hopefully the commissioners have changed the statute, so they'll have the ability to make more fine-tuned adjustments, but, you know.
Yeah, in fact, we can ask the election board attorney, Jeff Thompson, who's here this evening, to maybe prepare some draft legislation to go with the final report if you'd like. That way the commissioners can see that, and then they can move that forward if they want to.
I'll bet you he's already done it, you know, because he's so efficient, he was at all the meetings, so.
He anticipated
Yes.
what was coming. He didn't need for us to ask.
Exactly.
He's that kind of guy.
Yeah. And again, I just want to thank, I mean, if it weren't for Beth really did a lot of work, and we really appreciate that. So, you know, we wouldn't have as nice a report, and it wouldn't look as good if it weren't for her. So, anything else comment-wise? So is there any reason we shouldn't go ahead and close the hearing and vote on this?
We're free to vote on it now. Yeah, we can close the hearing and vote on it at this point. Let me just say that we do have a final draft report from the Redistricting Board to the county commissioners. I will circulate that tonight, and I can also send it out electronically to all the.
But it's what we saw and agreed to.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
So we have that ready to go, absent of the legislation that we can append to that
Yeah,
as
that's
well,
fine, yeah.
and the exhibits, so I think it's ready to go as well.
Do we have a motion to close the hearing?
Do we need a motion to accept the report?
Well, I was going to do that after we close the hearing.
I'll move that we close the hearing.
We have a second? We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye, the ayes have it. Do we have a motion to adopt the report?
I move that we adopt the report that we've created and as Todd has presented.
Yeah, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, there we go. I guess this concludes our business tonight.
For tonight, yes, it does. Thank you all very much. It's been a pleasure working with each of you. And we'll get this wrapped up, and I will schedule at your convenience a presentation for the in front of the county commissioners to present this, and then they can go ahead and do their legislative actions.
And it'll be one of the 2 May meetings, most likely?
Well, we can do it anytime. We can do it as early as February, March, whenever we can get a majority of the members, or at least the 2 co-chairs that can attend a commissioner meeting.
Okay. Well, maybe we can touch base with Margie or something and get it scheduled. That sounds good. Okay. Terrific. All right.
Gene, we have an election board meeting tomorrow, so I've already told to go ahead and put it on the agenda to talk about that change. There's not much to it.
I think it's like 1 or 2 words.
That's right.
Yeah.
The other one just refers to an old, the old election precincts. We just need to make it fresh.
Right.
So it relates to current ones, and then should the future board decide they need to be changed, it would be the precincts that the election board then could consider.
Right. Well, and you want to give the redistricting board the power to change the election districts, and then the precincts should not be monkeyed with. They should be dealt with at you guys, at your level.
Just the opposite.
The other way, okay. Well, as long as you have it straight.
Yeah.
All right. Good? Great.
Good.
All right.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Long ride home here, so.
Yeah. No, I'm talking to the urologist at 8 tonight. This worked out perfectly.